Hey, Tim Leffel here, author of Travel Writing 2.0, which is now in its second edition. And I'm going to get rolling here with my presentation from TBEX Europe, which was held in Stockholm in July of 2016. My audio from that event was not so great, so I'm recording this anew so you can have it in clear sound, unlike the one I posted before for TBEX Asia, which was a big echoey room. So this time we're just going to do this up close and intimate. So I'm going to put this slide up again at the end, but I'm an easy guy to find. If you just Google Tim Leffel, it will lead you to these various things eventually. I've got a website at timleffel.com that will link out to all the different websites I run. So this presentation is about making yourself less fragile by running multiple websites. So my first question is, how do you feel when you look at this? Does this look exciting or does it look a little scary? He's got no net, he's got no wire, no cables. The only wire is the wire he's walking across. And he stayed up there for 45 minutes like this. It's part of a great film called Man on Wire, a documentary that you can sometimes find on Netflix or Vimeo. How does this make you feel? What if you're pulling up Google Analytics and this is what happened to your website? I've known this happen to more than a few people when they've gotten dinged by Google, sometimes through no fault of their own or nothing they did wrong. This was Stuart McDonald from Travel Fish that put up this tweet. It was from a single page, but still, that's a little bit scary. So what I've done over the years is build a portfolio of sites. This has helped me sleep better at night and help smooth out my income so it's not such a crazy up and down from month to month. This is the first blog I started, the Cheapest Destinations blog, way back in 2003. I was one of the pioneers, one of the first ones into the pool in the blogosphere. Back then there were so few of us, we all knew each other. We could count the budget travel blogs on one hand. Now there are thousands of them. But as time went on, I was able to make a bit of money from that site, and then I started Perceptive Travel in 2006. I mainly started this because I was getting annoyed that a lot of the magazines that were for budget travelers or independent travelers were going out of business. A lot of them had just completely folded, and there weren't many spots anywhere to place articles that were really interesting or narrative or had any heft to them. So I started this site to give myself and my author friends a place to put their articles, and over time it started doing really well. And then soon after that, within a year or so, I started Luxury Latin America. For this one, I saw another hole in the market, but of a different kind. Almost nobody was writing about Latin America, but at the same time, I was seeing this explosion in new hotels, new tour companies coming in, new trekking routes opening up, new Galapagos ships that were geared to luxury travelers. So I thought, well, if nobody else is covering this, I think I can do it pretty well. I'm traveling down there fairly often. I'm already reviewing hotels for a trade publication. So I launched it myself and built it up over time. It's now my biggest moneymaker, even though it doesn't get nearly the traffic of some of the others. We'll talk about that more in a minute. Then I put out the book Travel Writing 2.0 and put a blog out that went with it, where I'm basically interviewing travel writers, editors, book publishers, bloggers, anybody that's got some advice that's worth listening to on travel writing from the viewpoint of a successful person in the field. And recently, about 4 years ago, I think, I started Hotel Scoop. And a bunch of us were writing for this hotel site called Uptake.com. Uptake got bought by Groupon. They shut down all of their blogs. They gave us a little warning so we could go grab our content. But as soon as they told us that was happening, I asked the other writers if they would want to come with me. I was going to reproduce the site on my own. So when Uptake went away, Hotel Scoop was born, and we've been running ever since. And last but not least, I also sold a site last year. I used to have a site called Practical Travel Gear that I started in 2009. I ran it for 6 years. It was profitable 5 of those 6 years. So for that reason, I was able to sell it last summer. And the selling price was about $45,000, and after it was all said and done, I think I got about $38,000 out of that after the broker's commission and everything, which to me was a nice chunk of change for taking out some equity and getting one thing off my plate. So I want to show you some other examples though, because this is not all about me. This is Price of Travel. Some of you guys might be familiar with this site. It doesn't really have all that many social media followers. I think Facebook is the one he has the most on, which is 3,200. But this site gets huge traffic, and this site alone makes him close to a six-figure income because it's extremely popular. It does really well in search because it's targeted. It's not all about him. But he didn't stop there. You can see here at the top left, there's this article about the cheapest overwater bungalows. Well, that links out to overwaterbungalows.net, which he also owns. It's not hard to imagine what kind of affiliate income a site like this can do. Every time someone reads a review and then goes and clicks on it and books something for their grand honeymoon of 7 nights, this guy gets a commission off of it. Because it's targeted, because it's focused, it does extremely well in search, once again, and gets a lot of business. And for a while, Roger was living in Thailand, and while he was there, he started this site, Phuket Beach Luxury. It's not about anywhere else. It's just about Phuket. It's not about backpacking. It's about beach luxury. And for this site, he had to go out like a real journalist and do some digging around and, visit places and find out everything he could on them and write up reviews. But by doing that, instead of saying, hey, here's my trip to Phuket, wasn't it nice? Look at my pretty pictures. He gets lots of traffic when people are searching on this subject. Here's someone who's a business partner of mine, Kim from Traveling Mom. She's got 60-some people contributing to this site. So it alone does extremely well. It gets close to 250,000 unique page views per month, which dwarfs most family travel blogs. But that's not the only one she runs. She also runs this site, She Buys Cars, which has a totally different audience, totally different set of advertisers, PR people, all of that. It attracts a whole nother set of readers. And with her husband, she runs TravelingDad.com. So think about when this couple goes on a road trip with their family, they could do something for Traveling Mom, they could do something for Traveling Dad, and they're probably riding in a car that they didn't pay for. I just wanted to show you another example here. This is from a guy named Valen, who sent me his sites before I went live with this presentation. He started all these when he was traveling, but he's never been a full-time blogger. He runs these on the side. He actually has a full-time regular job, lives in the States, and just contributes more to him from his desk and when he's traveling around a bit. And the three of them together bring in an income of $1,500 per month with a few hours of work put into them per week. So my point with all this is there's no reason you have to be a monoblogger. For some reason, when I talk with people at TBEX or writers conferences like in ATJA, it seems that probably 95 to 98% of the bloggers out there are only running one site. But there's no rule that says that has to be the case. It's very easy for you to start a second one and be running it. You can even do it on the same host if you want. You can use the same template if you want. You can see those last two, the Traveling Mom and Traveling Dads, are pretty close. The key is you don't have to do just one. Think about what other things you could write about that are more focused and are not all about you. Because here's the problem. We've gotten to a point of saturation, or if we're not there, we're pretty darn close. And almost every travel blog you can point to that is a personality blog of some kind follows this pattern. You can play this little game here. Take one thing from column A, one thing from column B, smash them together, and you've got the name of the travel blog. And you can do that times thousands because I'm sure if you spend a day surfing around, you will see that almost all of them fit into this pattern here. And the problem is, kind of like with beer and band names, we're running out of these things because there's so darn many of them. It's really hard to start a new one now and stand out. And, people look and say, well, look at Nomadic Matt. I mean, he's doing great. It's a site with his name in it. It follows that pattern you were just talking about. And people can also look at others like Johnny Jet and Everything Everywhere from Gary Arndt, and any of these adventure blogs out there from people that have been out a long time. And they say, hey, look, this guy's doing great. They're getting 100,000 or more visitors every month. They're making huge money from sponsorships. Okay, that's true, but for one thing, they got a huge head start on you. Second, if you really dig into their content, you're going to find they do have a focus, and a lot of times it's in their tagline. Here's Matt's travel better, cheaper, longer. That's what everything boils down to for him. It's not a site about luxury. It's not a site about pampering or spas or anything like that. It's very focused. The problem with a lot of personality blogs, they're trying to do everything for everybody, and it doesn't work very well. And here's the thing, there's a lot of sites out there that have the word nomadic something in them. But wait, there's more. Wait, there's more. And there's more beyond that. But this is all I could fit on one slide, so I'm stopping there. And note that these all just have the word nomadic in it. If you actually broadened it out to the word nomad, then you would have hundreds more to talk about because there's so many travel blogs out there with that word in them. Now, most of these are pretty interchangeable, unfortunately. I mean, Nomadic Matt's is heads above the rest in terms of traffic and in a lot of cases focus. The only one on here that looks like it's any kind of a niche blog is the Nomadic Vegan. So at least you've got something to latch onto there. You know it's for vegans. But otherwise, these are pretty interchangeable in terms of their people traveling around the world writing about their travels. The other problem is you're so dependent on social media if you run a personality blog. If Roger Wade's social media accounts all went away, his price of travel site would still be huge. He doesn't depend on that. He can go off of Facebook for 2 weeks if he needs to and still get about the same amount of traffic. But if you're running a personality blog, it's got to be all about you all the time. And if you want to get popular on Instagram, here's how to do it. Just post some pictures of yourself on a bikini and you'll get all kinds of likes and comments, but maybe not the kind you want. This is not my quote. This is from a speaker named Sally Hogshead. She's an author and coach. And I love this quote because it kind of says it all when it comes to blogging as well. Different is better than better. If you're trying to be better than everything that's out there already, it's going to be really tough. I mean, every TBEX I go to, there's 600 or 700 bloggers, and they do 3 of them a year. So, and that's just travel. And imagine how many people don't spend the money and don't buy the plane ticket to go to TBEX. So you could probably multiply that by 10 and figure out how many of them out there you're competing with. So if you're on your own with a personality blog, you have to try so hard and like swim upstream so hard to try to pass, those top 50 bloggers out there that have been at it for a long time. And by the way, that top 50 blogger list now, you have to get a minimum of 80,000 unique visitors per month to even make it. I know because I'm number 50 on there. I'm about to drop off if I don't up my game. And I'm getting more than 80,000 visitors a month on the cheapest destinations blog. But, like I said, I don't need 80,000 visitors a month on Luxury Latin America. I didn't need 80,000 a month on PracticalTravelGear.com. I don't get 80,000 a month on Perceptive Travel, but they all made money or make money. Practical Travel Gear made $1,000 to $1,500 a month on that traffic that it got without a whole lot of effort. So, maybe that's not enough for a full-time job, but as a part of a portfolio, that's nice money. So there's a big advantage to niche blogs in the sense that you can much more easily rank in Google. You can much more easily get advertisers, including advertisers coming to you. You don't need huge traffic. You just need the right traffic. If you're answering people's questions and helping them with their problems and they're naturally gravitating to your site, you're not pushing them to go to your site, you're not begging them to come to your site, they're just naturally ending up there, then you have a much better chance of actually getting them to spend money on something because they care about the subject. They're not spending money with you just because of the force of your personality. You don't need big numbers, you need authority and relevance. And then when you build up an email list from a niche focused blog, everybody on there is on that list because they care about that subject, not because they care about you. So this is always kind of a harsh reality thing I throw up there to make people think seriously about what they're actually accomplishing and who they're reaching with their blog. If you're not making much money from your blog, it can usually boil down to this slide. People don't care enough to come back, to subscribe to your email list, to bookmark you, to return regularly. And most importantly, they don't care enough to spend money because it's not a subject that they're passionate about. It's not a subject that they've got an urgent need about or some urgent requirement for their upcoming trip. So, they can take it or leave it. If your blog went away, they might be a little sad. They might miss you personally, but they probably won't miss the writing that much because you're not answering their daily questions they have, or you're not talking to their passion for windsurfing or skiing or their passion for travel in California or whatever it may be. But if you do address that passion, then you will have passionate buyers for whatever you're trying to sell, whether it's your own product or affiliate programs or sponsors ads that are matched to the content. So I just want to throw out a few examples here of what it looks like when you're focused. Shelley Rivoli has her name on here, but her site is Travels with Baby. It's one of the older family travel blogs out there, and she's done a great job of parlaying this into more because she has a book that's in its second edition. She gets quoted in the media a lot, and she's got a very passionate audience that comes back to her site. You guys might know Julie from the Little Kitchen on Instagram. She always posts beautiful food photos that'll make you salivate, and her blog is about the intersection of travel and food. It's not so much about other things. Pretty much all that she writes about is going to somehow meet that intersection. Travel past 50. Well, it's clear who this is for. It's clear who it's guided to. It's clear that what the writing is going to be about is traveling for boomers. And they can keep this thing going for another 30 years if they want. There's no expiration date, as opposed to whether you're called a 20-something traveler or a 30-something traveler or a millennial traveler, whatever it may be. This one is not going to expire anytime soon. And I love taglines that say it all in a simple way. Champagne living, living life to the fullest. This is going to be about luxury travel, high-end experiences, one-of-a-kind experiences. It's not going to be about backpacking around the world. But you can get more focused than that. Those are some sort of general category examples. But here you've got ones that are hyper-focused but are doing extremely well. Autistic globetrotting, autism travel made easy. That says it all. If you have an autistic child and you land on this site when you're thinking of traveling, you're going to just say, oh my God, this is what I've been looking for. This is it. You're going to bookmark that site. You're going to follow them on every social media platform you're on. You're going to subscribe to their email newsletter. You're probably going to read everything they put up on that blog because you care about this subject more than anything because you're dealing with this problem every time you go traveling. How do I travel with my autistic child and do it in a way where everybody's going to be happy? Uncovering PA, that's the state of Pennsylvania for those of you outside the U.S. What do you think that site's about? It's only travel in Pennsylvania, not Maryland, not Delaware, not New York, just Pennsylvania. Imagine the easy time he has when he has a conversation with an advertiser. If they want to capture people that are planning a vacation to Pennsylvania, well, where else are they going to advertise? In Travel and Leisure? No, they're going to advertise here. Uncovering PA, it's only about Pennsylvania, so they've got a much more likely chance of getting their message out to readers who care. Also, I'm going to skip the one in the middle. The one on the right is Turkey Travel Planner. Same idea, but a whole country instead of a whole state. If you Google almost anything about Turkey travel, you're going to find this site on the first page of Google. And the thing is, it's been there for as long as I can remember, so probably early 2000s. So he's a former guidebook writer. He parlayed that expertise into running this site, and it's been his full-time job for years and years. He's the guy you want to contact if you want information on Turkey, so he gets quoted in the media a lot, and he's able to sell tours and hotels and everything else on his site to people who are already planning a trip there. The one in the middle is all about food in Disney parks. It's hard to imagine, maybe if you haven't spent time in that world, how crazy popular Disney parks are. But this site, I think, has an Alexa rank of 45,000 or something like that. So it's probably getting 150, 200,000 unique visitors per month. And it's all about food in Disney parks. That's it. I often say in these presentations that one thing you can do to improve your writing and probably your success is to read more books. On the writing side, read every kind of book, read novels, read essays, read nonfiction books that aren't about travel, read travel books. But if you're going to read business books and you haven't read any before, I would start with Seth Godin. He's the greatest. He has a great blog too that you should check out on a regular basis. He's also a great teacher in the art of saying things that are profound in a very concise manner. But I love this quote because I think the world is crazy right now. It's probably going to stay crazy. And you're much, much better stretching out your bets among multiple plays than you are trying to bet on one number on the roulette wheel. Another quote, and I've heard this from almost everybody I know who's successful in the online world. You'll hear a lot of things about you need to focus on one project, but the people that I know that have done well for 8, 10, 12 years normally have 8, 10, 12 streams of income. It's a big part of their success. So just real quick on the actual benefits of running multiple sites, I want to point all these out because it may not be so obvious to people, some of these. I mean, obviously, if you have 2 streams of income, that's a clear benefit. But there are many others beyond that. I often sell ad deals that are for 2 or 3 sites, not just one site. Someone approaches me about an ad deal for a cheapest destinations blog, and I say, okay, well, how about site B and site C as well? I can throw all of them into a package for $800 a month. And they say, okay, sure. Sometimes they don't, but a lot of times they do. And there are cases where I can really give a sponsor an extreme amount of attention that they wouldn't be able to get otherwise because I can link to them or give them shout outs from multiple domains, multiple social media accounts. It's also a hedge. If something goes wrong at one site, you still got 3 or 4 others. You get cross-promotion opportunities. I would never launch a site now that doesn't have links pretty quickly because I can link to it from my other site. So I know that there's going to be a signal to Google that the site's for real because other sites will be linking to it. And I can also, write off different trips. I mean, it's pretty rare for me to not go on a trip that's not a tax write-off because I've got so many different subjects I can cover. And of course, you have lots more media opportunities. I'll get called for a quote about hotels because I run Hotel Scoop. I'll get called about the cheapest destinations to travel in because of my cheapest destinations book and blog. I'll get quoted about travel writing because I have a book and blog out about travel writing. So if you have multiple things out, you have a lot better chance of getting in the media on a regular basis. And without going out there and pitching, by the way, most of this stuff falls in my lap. It's from journalists finding me online through search. And to sum it up on the benefits, it just means you get multiple sources of income and multiple types of income. Both of those are a healthy thing. You get more income stability. I mean, if you have a corporate job and you lose your job, you drop down to 0. If you have one blog and your site gets penalized by Google, then your income might drop down to 0. But if you have 3 or 4 sites, then even if one goes offline for a month, then you've still got other income. It's not going to be the end of the world. And the best thing is if you run a niche-focused blog, a subject blog, then it's much, much easier to sell than a personality-based blog. If you've got a blog called adventurejoe.com or travelingbob.com or whatever, it's pretty hard to sell that unless somebody named Joe or Bob is going to buy it from you. Whereas if you have a site that's called, Snowboard Colorado, then you've got a really good chance of selling that site. It's not about you. Someone else can take it over next week if they need to. Just a little example here of how this can work out if you manage to run more than one successful blog. I know these numbers are not really fair because one blog is going to do better than others. One might take off, one might just, kind of go along slowly, but just to give you an example, let's just say you started a blog, and its first year you did well out of the gate. You made about $500 a month. By year 2, you managed to double that up to $1,000 a month, and then you were able to double that again to $2,000 a month. And then let's just say you were able to add another 1,000 a year after that, which is, pretty conservative, assuming you're also doing some freelance work and maybe you put out a book or something. So by year 5, you're up to $48,000 a year. That's not terrible. That's a pretty decent living, right? If you're traveling around the world, you're doing quite well on that amount. But if you're trying to live in London or New York or San Francisco or Sydney, that's not going to be a whole lot of money. But let's say the next year you start another blog and it makes nothing in the first year, but it makes $6,000 the second year, and then it follows that same pattern. And then a year later you start a third one, makes nothing the first year, same pattern, 6,000, then 2,000 a month to 1,000 a month to 12,000. Then in year 3, 2,000 a month up to 24,000. Well, look at that difference. If you have these 3 blogs you're running instead of 1, you would hypothetically make $108,000 a year. You cleared the 6-figure barrier without doing any more to that first blog, just by starting 2 others on a different subject. And here's what happens to your income. Believe me, I lived this roller coaster on the left for plenty of years before I got wise and figured out the way to smooth this out. I love roller coasters. I love to ride this one on the left when I go to an amusement park, but I sure don't want to ride one of those when it comes to my bank account. The one on the right looks a lot more interesting to me when it comes to my checking account. I would really like to have this smooth ride without a whole lot of big fluctuations. So let's talk about putting this into practice. What are the challenges of it, and how does it actually work? Well, this is not as hard as it seems. I think the ideas part is probably really easy. If you just take some time, step away from the computer, take some long walks, take some hikes, take some bike rides, and just kind of evaluate what you're passionate enough about to write about it for 5 or 10 years. So that's the big one. What do you really care enough to write about it for years on end? And then, is there a market for it? So one way you can figure that out is by looking at the comments on your blog and what people are saying in message boards and things like that. And what kind of pain points do you see? What kind of questions keep coming up over and over? And then try to leverage your expertise to answer those questions in a way that you don't on your current blog now. If you're starting out from scratch, you can be so much more focused. You can go in any direction you want. And the big part of this is look for holes in the market, which was first on this list. So if you can match a hole to your market, to your expertise or your passion, then you will have such an easier time. Because if you know there's already a need for this, and you know that there's not much information out there, and you care enough about it to keep writing about it for 100, 200, 500 blog posts, then you've found a great combination, and you're probably going to have success. So look for the tribes that are looking for a gathering place. Look for the people that aren't getting the answers they want, and then take that on. And then launch it, test it, refine it, and grow it. You can know within 6 to 12 months how successful this thing's going to be. You'll know if you've got traction or not, and then you can refine it from there going forward. The key is just listening to the market and looking what's out there and see what holes you can fill. Believe me, I see holes every week. People say, oh, there's so many travel blogs. It's all done. It's all saturated. No, it's not. Personality blogs are overdone and oversaturated. But if you pick almost any destination in the world, except for maybe New York and London and some big ones like that, you'll have a really hard time finding definitive information on that location, on that destination. I mean, there's nowhere you can go for most of these destinations to find guidebook equivalent information on the web. Real restaurant hours, links to each restaurant, links to hotels, prices, bus schedules, things like that. I mean, it sounds kind of mundane, but if you want to find the, 5 best day trips from a certain city, unless it's a big city like Barcelona, you're not going to find those articles out there in very many places. So go fill those holes, create those articles, and you will dominate search in a hurry, as opposed to trying to compete in search with 10,000 other general travel bloggers. I put these numbers up here just to give you an idea. I think this is self-evident to people that have already launched one or two sites, but it bears repeating for those that haven't. It's really, really cheap these days to launch a website, to start a new blog. I mean, it's ridiculously cheap. It's so easy to go out and find people to do the work that you don't want to do or don't have the expertise to do. But there's the only reason you would not do it is because you're afraid or because you can't be bothered or because you're procrastinating. Because there's no technical reason that you can't go out and start a blog tomorrow on whatever subject you want. Don't worry about the logo. Don't worry about the layout that much. Just get a theme that looks good and then you can tweak it later. But I put some worst case scenario things up here. I mean, you can get shared hosting for less than this. You can get a domain for less than this. I think it's $1 when you start out on GoDaddy. So let's say you buy all these things, you get some help and whatever. You spent $285. Big deal. I mean, most people spend more than that on their car payment if they have one. So this is worst case scenario what you'd spend to launch a new blog, just to get it out there, get it running, get some posts up. Now let's say you ran this for 6 months, a year, and it flopped. It completely flopped. All right, so you put some time into it, you put in some sweat equity, and that's a loss. It's an opportunity loss that maybe you could have spent that time on something else. But really, you're out $300. So what? That's nothing. So, it's not a big investment. Really what you're investing is your time. So if you say from the start, I'm going to spend 5 hours a week on this thing and see where it goes, and you've only invested 5 hours a week. Big deal. Just don't watch much TV that week. You can spend 5 hours less a week watching television. I want to show some examples here of some students that have worked with me in my Travel Writing Overdrive course. David Nichols, a Brit living in Norway, and he started this Life in Norway site a while back. And he was having a problem though because he was trying to cover travel and expat living on the same blog, and it became kind of problematic after a while. So what he did, what we worked together on, was he launched Norway Traveler this year, and he's slowly moving over some of the travel content to this Norway Traveler site, and now he's got a clear delineation between living in Norway and traveling in Norway. So he can go after different advertisers, he can reach a different audience, he can have 2 different Facebook pages to reach different people, and so this way he can pretty much double his traffic just by starting this other site, and it will rank and search alongside the first one, and that's fine. He can have two things on the first page of Google instead of one. And later he's got a guidebook coming out for Moon Handbooks on the first guidebook to Norway from Moon, so I'm sure he will be getting a lot of media attention on these sites as well. Sarah Hughes is one of my students. You guys might know her site, Live, Dream, Discover. It is pretty focused. I'm happy that she had the sense to do that in the first place. It's the tagline there, if you can't see it, is well-balanced living at home and abroad. So it's about healthy travel, fit travel. And that's a nice niche. It's not something everybody and their brother's doing. But she wanted to settle down a bit and not be on the road constantly, and her and her partner are living in the Pacific Northwest. So they recently launched this, Discover the Pacific Northwest, and it's all about breweries, wineries, and distilleries in the Pacific Northwest. So first of all, this is going to be a blast. It's going to be a really fun site to work on. They're never going to run out of ideas, because if you've been to that area, you know there's hundreds of each one of those things. So they're never going to run out of things to cover. And after a while, they'll be getting a well-stocked bar on a regular basis from the companies that want to work with them. But also a whole different set of advertisers, once again, that they can go after, a whole different set of web traffic visitors that they will get, whole, another level of subscribers to their email list that have nothing to do with the first one. And so once again, they can probably double or triple the traffic they're getting now and have 2 different distinctive sites that are pulling in income from different sources. The other thing is, if you don't want to go through a year or 2 of sweat equity before you start making a grand a month, then you can buy a site. I mentioned earlier that I sold my site, Practical Travel Gear. I use this site, Latona's, that's at the bottom right here. They're a broker. The others are also brokers for websites. Empire Flippers tends to deal with profitable, established websites. So does Latona's. And then Flippa tends to deal with a lot of smaller, cheaper websites. So go there if you want to find a bargain. And it's not like these are damaged goods or anything. A lot of times they're sites that somebody literally built to flip. They just started the site up, they got it rolling, they've had the domain for a couple of years, and then now they're selling it. So sometimes they're just looking to eke out a bit of a profit. Other times it's an established site where they just got bored with it or they don't want to write about it anymore. So they're selling it. Their life situation has changed. So sometimes you can buy a site for $1,000, $2,000 that has a guaranteed income already. And most of these are priced somewhere between 2 and 4 times annual profit. So for example, if a site is making $4,000 a year in profit, then you might be able to buy it for $8,000. And in that case, you're going to make money immediately. It's going to be already generating income. And if you improve it through SEO, through social media attention, through better content, then you can very easily and quickly see how you can bump that up. So if you just manage to triple the income of a site that's only making $500 a month right now, that's $1,500 a month. That's enough to travel on in some places in Southeast Asia in the fall. So this is a way, if you've got some extra cash to invest, it's a way to skip a lot of that build-up time. You've got a site that's already indexed by Google, is probably even ranking already in Google, and Google does count the age of your domain as a ranking factor. So if you buy a domain that's already been out there for 4 or 5 years, you have a much, much better chance of moving that up the rankings than you do a brand new site that you just started yesterday. So there's a huge advantage to this, and just go out there and start looking around, see what's out there. You may be able to buy a site that maybe the content now doesn't tie in perfectly with what you want to do, but it doesn't matter. You can retweak it a little bit as long as the name is not totally left field for what you're trying to do. You can just refocus that blog a little bit, do a pivot. This is an answer to the objection I get all the time. People go, oh my God, I'm so busy already with this one blog. I don't know how you do it. How in the world can I run another blog? And then when we dive into it, turns out they're only doing 2 posts a week anyway. and the rest of the time they're farting around on Facebook. So most of you have more time than you think you do. I run 5 blogs and I don't have any more time than you guys do. I used to run 6. And I have a family, by the way. I've got a wife and a kid. And I take vacations regularly, and I go off the grid sometimes. So it's not like running 3 blogs is 3 times more work. There's a lot of efficiency built into the system if you do it right. You can run multiple Twitter accounts from one Hootsuite page. You can run multiple Facebook accounts from one login. So a lot of these things don't require a lot more time to run. And let's just say you post, 2 posts a week, and you've got 3 blogs. Well, okay, that's 1 a day for 6 days. That's not all that hard. Maybe one day you can manage to double up and write 2 articles. Freelancers do that all the time. Newspaper writers will sometimes write 3 or 4 in a day. It can be done. And here's the big thing. I mentioned before how much cheaper it is to run a blog than it used to be. It's also 10 times easier than it used to be. I mean, if you've just started doing this in the last 2 or 3 years, consider yourself extremely lucky, because everything used to require so much more effort. Back in the olden days, I don't want to sound like a cranky old man, but when WordPress first started, there were no plugins. There were 2 themes I think you could pick from. If you wanted to get a box moved from one side of the page to the other, you had to hire a designer who had to go and do custom coding for you, and it was going to take them a week. So many of these things are easier now, and now we have all these social media platforms out. There's a big danger to those because they can be a big time suck. But on the other side, they can give you an extreme amount of attention for no money, just a little bit of effort here and there. Some of these tools do cost some money, but they're worth it. So look into those. Some of them are free, some of them are not. Get Edgar costs money. I think it's $50 a month, but it lets you schedule all of your content on all your sites, if you have more than one, through the various social media platforms, and you don't have to be doing it every day. You can just kind of set up a library and then let it rip. If this, then that. It's great for scheduling things when a new post goes out, making sure it goes on Twitter, it goes on Google+, it goes on Facebook without you having to actually be on Google+ or Twitter or Facebook. You can also make it on if this, then that, so that when you put up a picture on Instagram, it automatically goes into Twitter, and it maintains the photo. You don't lose the photo like you do with Twitter normally. So a couple tools there. I strongly advise using an offline email program. Doesn't have to be Thunderbird. You can do it with Gmail offline or Gmail desktop, whatever it's called. But that way you can work on a plane, you can work on a bus, and you can really knock stuff out. Hootsuite we talked about. It's great. I run every website from one Hootsuite login. And so I can put tweets up to 4 different websites in 10 minutes while I'm eating breakfast and then forget about it. Boomerang for Gmail brings your messages back. Scramblers for scheduling Instagram, Tailwinds for scheduling Pinterest. MailChimp is an email newsletter provider. Some of you use Buffer app, lead pages for setting up great landing pages. All of these things, I'm not saying you have to use all of them. I'm not saying you have to use, any of them really, but they save you a lot of time and let you systemize your efforts so that you can spend more time writing and less time broadcasting. I don't work all that many hours compared to a normal office drone. I work 40, 50 hours a week. But that counts when I travel, and I don't really consider that work. It's a lot of fun. Sometimes it's work when you've got to be on a press trip that starts at 8 a.m. and ends at 8 p.m. But for the most part, I enjoy the travel, and I'm just taking notes and taking pictures, and it's fun. So I do work 40 or 50 hours a week. This is not a 4-hour work week job, but later when I want to dial things back and I want to semi-retire, I'll just sell 1 or 2 of my websites and I'll dial back my effort. But you don't have to do everything yourself, and this is how I'm able to manage it. I don't do everything myself. I don't try to be a superhero. I have assistants that work with me. I have lots of systems in place so that things are running on their own. I have lots of freelancers I pay to put up articles so that I'm not having to write everything myself. It's all a business investment. If you run a business, you have to invest some money in your business. Everything's not free. But if you invest more money, you make more money. And I see this over and over again where the people who are least willing to spend the money are the ones who are least likely to make more money because they are afraid to spend $1 even when it's going to bring them back $3. So if you're serious enough about this to invest a few $100s, you can come take my Travel Writing Overdrive course. It's closed right now. I open it back up every 3 months, and we'll be open again in November if you're listening to this in 2016. But if you can join that, I guarantee you will up your income by $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a month. I think it's going to be reality that some of my students are going to double their income within a year of taking this course just because they've changed their habits and they've launched other projects and they're having much more success in their freelance efforts as well. But if you're really broke, you can spend $9 for the book on the right, Travel Writing 2.0, and that will help you avoid a lot of mistakes and get you past a lot of trial and error. It's not just information from me. It's got information from lots and lots of other writers in there who are successful doing different things than I'm doing. I don't have all the answers. I'm just giving you some answers to consider. They give you others as well. So that's my pitch for the Travel Writing Overdrive course. You can find info there at realmoneywriters.com. There's a waiting list if you want to sign up to be notified when it opens back up, and I'll keep you updated on other things. But of course, the top of this page here, go to travelwriting2.com/newsletter and get on that monthly newsletter because I'm sending that out all the time and it's free. So, like I said, there's not a whole lot of Tim Leffels out there, so I'm an easy guy to find. But my portfolio site is timleffel.com. On Twitter, I'm Tim Leffel. You can find me on Instagram as Globetrots because somebody already had my name there. But also there are Facebook pages for each of the websites. And Tim Leffel on YouTube and Google+. And you can find me by email, tim@timleffel.com. Thanks. And thanks to TBEX for having me in Stockholm. And I will probably be speaking at TBEX Asia in Manila if you'll be there, if you're hearing this in mid-2016. Otherwise, keep in touch and we'll catch each other next year somewhere.